Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of What's Your Story? Tonight we are sitting down with one of our local favorites, Bruce Donath. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And thanks for your patience, because we had a couple of little reschedules, so we're very happy to have you in the hot seat today.
Right, and it's just slightly warm. Thank you.
So we usually start off, if you've seen any of our previous interviews, with asking our guests where they grew up.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up basically in White Plains, New York, which is about 30 miles north of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Born in Brooklyn, a couple of years in Queens, outside of New York, in the suburbs. But most of the time was in White Plains, New York. A year or two in the Midwest as my father got transferred around.
Okay. What did he do?
He was an accountant for General Foods Corporation,
Yeah.
A now gone company turned mostly into Kraft Foods.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it was a good job for him. He was there worked for them for 35 years.
Wow. You don't sound like a New Yorker.
Maybe I've spent too much time in Massachusetts.
Oh,
and
that
Maine.
could be.
Yeah, basically after high school,
Yeah.
I've been living in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
ever since.
Where in Mass?
Lived in Southborough, Concord.
Yeah.
Then we were in Providence for a few years.
Yeah.
And then after a stint in the Caribbean, which may or may not have affected my accent or my vocabulary, we moved to Kennebunkport full time.
Yeah. So what brought you here?
Well, there's really two stories there.
Okay. Short
And
version, long version?
We'll
You
keep it.
go
Better
for
keep it short. My wife, my second wife, Debbie Purse, she and I were planning to get married, or at least that's what I thought at the time. And we were taking a little trip up to Portland. We didn't have a map, and the guy at the tourist center, they ran out of maps in September of 1981.
Okay.
And they said, follow Route 9, that's scenic, and it'll get you to Portland. Well, I'm glad we didn't follow Route 9 strictly.
Yeah, that's a little.
But we did get as far as Dock Square,
Okay.
and thinking, well, this is cute, but this is not our thing, really, commercial stuff. So we kept following Route 9, and we were about to give up on Route 9 when we went over the hill by the water tower.
Oh,
And we came down into the Cape Porpoise Square,
yes.
and we saw a little map on the wall of what was then a hardware store and gas station.
That's right.
And we saw we were right around the water from the, right around the road from the water. So we went out there, and a house on Pier Road, a little cottage with a mansard roof that many people who've lived in town will remember, now
Yeah.
gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a sign in front of it that said for sale. We both memorized the phone number to ourselves,
Yeah.
and we went back to what was then the Wayfarer, called on the phone, and 4 hours later, our bid was accepted.
Oh, how wonderful.
And it was a sign of things to come.
Yeah, yeah.
We proved to be pretty impetuous.
Yeah.
So that was our first, and the cottage really became a very important part of our lives, and at sometimes kind of a pain to maintain, but we really did love the location and the
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and that was really special. And after we sold our business in the Caribbean, or about to sell it,
Yeah.
we were in our cottage, and we ran into Tony and Nancy Veman, and they were about to sell their house, much to our surprise. So 2 days later, we made them an offer because we needed a place to live once we sold the business.
Yeah.
And they were very helpful in working with us to make arrangements. So we bought their house and moved into that house in 2006 after renting it for a couple of
That
years.
is great. And
That's,
and another great location.
Another great
So-
location, right across the street from our summer cottage.
Yeah. Before I started working here, just coming down to the area every once in a while, you ride around Cape Porpoise, Ocean Avenue, and my husband and I took a couple of walks on Pier Road. And what I think at the same time, Mike and Janet Weston were getting ready to buy their house, and So we walked by, and I said, "Oh my gosh, look at that house! Isn't it beautiful?" And he said, "Yeah, it says for sale, not on sale." So we would always look at these, dream spots. I think maybe we had just gotten married. Now that I think of it, but we were walking around looking at that whole harbor. It's very magical.
Yeah.
So, and you've got a lot of buddies in that.
Oh, lots of friends. Lots of friends. When we were summer people from Massachusetts, oh my goodness, we were, an hour and a half away in Concord at the time.
Yeah.
As it turned out, it was really pleasant to come up for the weekend. So we
Yeah.
met a few of the immediate people, Nancy and Tony, the Malconians,
Yeah.
a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So we had our coterie was about, 10 families
Yeah. Yeah.
for many, many years.
Did a lot of things together.
We did,
Yeah.
we did. But again, when you're up and down, in and out, and then we were gone for 10 years, that was, we were up here like 2 weeks a year
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
almost that whole time.
So I'm going to go back a little bit.
Sure.
You talk about a little bit about the Caribbean, but we want to hear a little bit before that. So
Okay.
school,
Well, we were based.
you,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this. It's very. I've been very fortunate. Okay. I went to a meeting one time, and then they had little breakout sessions, and everybody's going to tell their personal story. And of course, by the time it came around to me, we were out of time.
oh.
And it occurred to me that in reality, I'm sort of like Beaver Cleaver.
Uh-huh.
In that everything seems to just go my way. And going to college was one of those ways. I had an English teacher and the journalism advisor. He really wanted me to apply to Harvard, which we thought was quite a stretch. But because I had to have an interview, we had an appointment. And then my father had long wanted to be an engineer instead of an accountant. And so I had several MIT catalogs in my closet a few years in a row. So we stopped in. You didn't need an appointment. You could just walk in, get an interview at that time.
Yeah.
This is 1965, 64. And I went in for an interview and didn't get into Harvard, but I got into MIT.
Wow.
So now that's Beaver Cleaver.
Yeah.
That's Beaver Cleaver
yeah,
luck.
Yeah.
Talk about.
I was actually just there yesterday, walking
Yeah?
by the campus.
Oh, wow.
So what a beautiful spot.
It is. It's quite a school.
So what did you major in when you were at MIT?
Well, kind of in double E, electrical engineering. But in actual fact, I enrolled in a special program that they had in the management school. And I had an approved plan to get 2 degrees in 5 years. And but the Vietnam War was kind of raging at that time.
Right.
And it turned out that the thing to do was to find a way not to go to Vietnam, which was my choice. At the time, I had married my senior year. My wife, my high school sweetheart, and I were married.
Okay. Yeah.
And one thing led to another. So at the end of my senior year, I left with 4 years. I had a degree in what they called industrial management. I'm not sure what they call it now. If people know MIT, it's course 15.
Okay.
Everything's got a number at MIT, and you don't forget them.
That's great. Well, our producer has an affiliation with MIT also. So
Yeah.
you have probably talked about that before.
Yeah, we've talked about it some.
Yeah.
We've talked about it some. Anyway, that eventually led to my first job.
Yeah. And is that in computers or?
Well, it was more like how do computers make a difference
Okay.
in a business setting.
Yeah.
So my first real job was with IBM for 4 years. And then I had a fraternity brother. This is Beaver Cleaver stuff. Fraternity brother called me and he said, well, we're working on this little company with some professors, and we thought you'd like to come and work for us.
Yeah.
We'd be a good fit for what we need to do. So I left IBM, much to my parents' shock,
Yeah.
because being children of the Depression,
Yeah.
working for a big company was the answer.
Stay.
That's right. But they didn't protest too much.
Yeah.
And so we moved up to the Massachusetts area. And so it was a small company, doing some consulting, doing some computer stuff, computer software. This is 1973.
Yeah.
Okay, things were a little different then,
Yeah.
and it was fun being in a small company. So I guess I was kind of a consultant and a manager, and and very fortunate in a very comfortable suburban high tech way.
Yeah.
Even with an office on 128.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Beaver Cleaver could not have done this well.
And how long were you there?
Well, that company, I was with that company 11 years. Like, that's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Company was struggling. My situation wasn't so good as far as which parts of the company I could make the best contribution to. So I wound up switching to another startup, started by some guys from Brown,
Yeah.
and was in that company about 11 years.
Okay.
And that's a little more complicated, well, without explaining, but computer-aided software engineering.
Okay.
It's a great idea,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that we had, but besides the defense industry and their problems with software planning, it never took on, our approach never took on in the commercial business. When the Berlin Wall came down, we could see that this was not good for
Yeah.
our company.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then we look for new opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so you've kind of told me a story. A little bit of it, I think, is written down somewhere. But you were in an airport. Were you in an airport somewhere?
Oh, you mean how we
reading
discovered the Caribbean?
The Wall Street Journal? Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Can you tell us that story?
Okay, this one I could go on too long, but
Well-
just I'll give you the highlights.
Yeah.
We were thinking about doing something different. So this company was struggling. College expenses were paid. We were sort of feeling free, and we sort of realized we could be very comfortable with a modest income, but some kind of income.
Right.
But didn't really have to try and replicate the job that I'd had in a new setting, which I really didn't care to do anymore.
Little less stress.
Well, or maybe, I don't know, but just different.
Yeah.
More service-oriented. I was thinking about the possibilities of teaching somehow, English as a second language, do some traveling,
Right. Right.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, and Debbie, she wanted to have a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
And I looked at a lot of literature about bed and breakfast, as she did, and it's hard work. You generally don't make any money
24/7.
if you don't lose money, and the average ownership is about 5 years. But one of the things we picked up on was if you had a side business associated with the bed and breakfast, that was a better combination than just a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
And Debbie really was the one who was oriented toward the hosting part. I like being the host, but I'm not so sure I'm very good at picking out the right colors for the linens
Okay.
and all of that fussy stuff that goes along with a B&B.
And that's important.
In any case, we were sort of ripe for opportunities that were different, and I accidentally ran into an ad in the Wall Street Journal while we were on the plane flight. I used to read the real estate ads as a way to kill time
Yeah.
when you're stuck somewhere
Right.
with nothing else to do. So there was an ad for a small resort for sale in the British Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
And so I was joking with Debbie on the plane flight because she was with me that time, and I stuck the ad in her purse, and she pulled it out 6 weeks later, and then about 10 months later we owned that small resort.
Wow. Which is called.
It was called Sandcastle.
Okay.
Sandcastle itself no longer exists. I'll explain that. But basically, the big, well-known part of Sandcastle was its bar.
Yeah.
And the location on a gorgeous beach, staring out across the beautiful waters to south to St. John and St. Thomas is just magical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we saw it, we just went bonkers.
Yeah.
And I know personally, I just had this epiphany that is like, we must do this
Yeah.
because it was very
And
special.
after you owned it for a little while, did you still pinch yourself? You
It
know,
took a
like,
while
I
to
got
be.
here.
It took a while to be really happy.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, the first 20 days we had a tropical storm and 2 hurricanes.
Oh, how
And
nice.
the first hurricane, we were invited to spend in a nice solid house up on a hill, not too far from where our business was. And we had the discussion about, did we make a
What
mistake?
the hell did we do?
And so I said to Debbie, I said, well, if nothing happens, we don't know how much damage there's going to be. We didn't know anything about hurricanes.
Yeah.
If there's not too much damage, we'll be fine. If the thing gets blown away, that's okay. I've still got a job up in
Yeah.
Providence.
Yeah.
So we'll just go home and tell everybody we'll be back, because the land itself was probably worth,
Yeah. Where its
yeah,
location.
after the
Yeah.
demolition by the hurricane,
Right.
it's probably worth as much or more than what we paid for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't tell her that the biggest problem would be if it got half blown away. Because then you have to fix it up and you have to make decisions. And what color
Right.
are the
Yeah.
cottages going to be painted?
Yeah.
And those kinds of decisions,
Right,
which I
right.
hate. But it didn't turn out that way. And so that was a pinching part.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have to give credit to Debbie, because the first year I kept my job in Providence. And I came down maybe 1 week every 5 or 6 weeks, and then and so she was running the place with her niece, and that was
Wow.
really testing time for her.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that company, I told you that the defense industry collapsed or consolidated,
Yes.
and I got laid off with 13 weeks of severance pay. So I was happy camper. I said, now I'm going down full time, and we got
Beaver
this.
Cleaver once again.
Got this extra cash that we can put into the business.
Wow. Good for you.
Of course, she at the time she thought that, well, maybe we should just hire somebody to run the place and we'll move back to the suburbs. But I can understand why she felt. I know that she very much enjoyed the next 9 years
Yeah.
that we had running the business.
Yeah.
But she did have her qualms at that first stage.
So it's still there.
It's still there. In 2017, many folks will remember that there was a horrific, actually a double Category 5 hurricanes, Irma and Maria,
Yeah.
which the locals down there called Irmaria. Irmaria.
Because it was probably bang bang, right?
Yeah, it was only 8 days in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Irma had the winds and Maria had the rains. And it destroyed it basically destroyed just about everything that stood on the island where our business was, which is named Joost van Dyke, including all of the cottages and most of the other buildings of the Sandcastle Hotel.
Yeah.
Some interesting parts survived, but at that point we had sold the business in 2005,
Yeah.
and the owners, who were very good business people, and we became friends with them during the sales process, they basically made the decision that they would not rebuild the cottages.
Okay.
So that the Sandcastle Hotel idea is kind of in the history now.
Okay.
But the Soggy Dollar Bar, frankly, became so popular over time that it was hard to keep the hotel guests all happy, because their daytime crowds were a
Right.
little heavy. So it was
Right.
a difficult balance. Now it's a really well-run bar
Yeah.
in a beautiful location. And so it's still
And
a great
people
business.
swim up to it. That's why it's called the Soggy Dollar Bar.
Well, you do have a choice.
Is that?
You sail in, you throw an anchor,
Yeah.
or your power boats are very popular now. And then you can swim, or some people have a dinghy with their sailboat,
Okay.
so they dinghy ashore.
Yeah.
But the Soggy Dollars were for people that swam in. In fact, one time, one of our guests found a $100 bill sort of gently floating in the water.
Oh, drinks
And,
on me.
He came to the bar and he asked everybody, is anybody missing? But I think somebody swam out to their boat, and goodness knows how long it was before they recovered that. But
Finders keepers.
yeah,
So, how far is it from like St. John, St. Thomas to Joost van Dyke? Is it?
Well, I think mile-wise, it's probably like 5 or 6 miles
Okay, so
maximum.
it's pretty close.
It's pretty close.
Wow.
And it's about, I would say, generally we would say it was about 30 minutes or so by boat.
Yeah.
So we kept the boat in our business. We'd take guests
You would-
into the, or let's say a shopping run.
Yeah.
We'd dinghy out to our boat that was on a mooring, like a 25-foot cuddy cabin, walk-around cuddy cabin for your boat lovers. And we'd have to go to St. John first to check into the United States, show our passport,
Oh yes.
and then we'd either do shopping there or we'd go then run across to St. Thomas.
Yeah. So, there's not an airport on Joost Van Dyke, is there?
No,
Okay.
there is none.
So you definitely need to go from one of those islands over to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
the big island of the British Virgin Islands is Tortola. So although it was relatively easy to get to St. Thomas and St. John, when it came down to foodstuffs and bottled beer and everything.
Yeah, there wasn't an Amazon.com back then.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But I'll tell you, if you want to know, I'll tell you how we got.
Yes.
We did take a lot of stuff, but most of the what I would call standard items for a restaurant and a hotel we bought on Tortola
Okay.
and paid maybe some additional upcharges, but it was so much simpler
Right.
than routing stuff. If you're buying in volume, then you have a lot more choices. But we were still a relatively small business.
Right. Right.
So that's what we did.
Yeah, and you don't
Although,
think about that.
we had a lot of T-shirts made. Debbie did a great job with the boutique.
Do you have any left? Any
No,
for sale?
no, not ours. But you go online, soggydollar.com, and you get the latest.
Good.
But I wanted to say that, so we source most of those from U.S. manufacturers, had it shipped to a service on Red Hook, and then we'd go over and pick it up in our boat.
Wow.
And then we had to clear customs because we were in a foreign country on Joost Van Dyke, and that created some interesting
Yeah.
challenges at time.
Don't even think about that stuff. So,
Right. Well, we didn't know about that either when we bought it, but we learned fast enough.
so every time you had to did they get to know you, or as you were going through customs, or they still had to look through, right?
So now we got to talk about Joost Van Dyke.
Okay.
And I have to say, one thing I thought that I really wanted to say is part of our feeling that we were successful, and that we were successful in many different ways, was the fact that we were on a small island where we were dependent on people living on our small island. We were only 20 minutes from Tortola and 35 minutes from St. John,
Yeah.
but it was over water.
Okay.
So when you have an immediate need, you're going to need those neighbors.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that was and back then we communicated mostly by VHF radio as if we were a boat because there were no phone lines
Right.
to our place and no cell phones. So that was and I think that was actually that dependence gave us an experience that a lot of people don't have when they go to the Caribbean,
Today.
even people who own a
Yeah.
house in the Caribbean, because it's very easy in a way to sort of stay living in a place
Yeah.
but not really being in the place.
Right. You
Same thing
isolate
here in
yourself.
Kennebunkport. The people from away, some don't get that close
Right.
to the community.
Right.
They don't come to the library
Yeah.
and get to know the staff at the
That's-
library.
yeah.
They know where the library is and they go there, but they treat it like a service,
Yeah.
not like this is part of my home.
I get what you're saying.
And
yeah. Yeah.
and that was really, and frankly, I think it was it gave me a lot of things to think about and talk about in another video.
Okay. That sounds good. So, any one crazy story from there to
A
share?
crazy story. Okay, this is so typical. So typical. I highly recommend, by the way, the book "Don't Stop the Carnival" by Herman Wouk, and this is like a story in that book. So
And don't come to the library right now because I have it checked out.
oh, get on the waiting list.
That's right.
So our business was growing very well, and we can talk about that on another video.
Okay.
But But in the face of that, we also had a very special event every year, a big New Year's party on our little island that gained notoriety thanks to some New York Times travel reporter that named Joost van Dyke as the place to be for New Year's Eve.
Hello.
What down there they called Old Year's Night,
Oh, okay.
not New Year's Eve. Anyway, we were
That
the
actually makes
beneficiaries.
sense.
All of the partying at night went off in the next bay over on our island, but not in our bay.
Okay.
Our bay was daytime. At
Okay.
night, everybody was gone.
Okay.
But that was great for us with our daytime bar, and it was a very good setup. So now we're looking at this party for 1999, Y2K,
Oh.
and we had already been getting calls for years for people. They wanted to be on Joost van Dyke, and they wanted to rent a place, and there weren't that many beds on Joost van Dyke. Anyway, so we're looking at our infrastructure, and we came to the conclusion we really need to do something about refrigeration. And the business had been growing. So we did that, and I ordered a walk-in refrigerator and walk-in freezer that came kind of one unit together, two sides, two doors, two compressors.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how do you do that? Well, we worked with a guy on St. Thomas that was one of our regulars at the bar who advised us on what to buy, and we had it shipped to St. Thomas. And then there was a delivery service that delivered from St. Thomas to Joost van Dyke.
Right.
I remember the boat named Zip Code.
Oh.
That was kind of a cute name for a little boat. So one day I got a VHF radio. I've got something for you, Bruce. Okay, so I went over to the dock. At that point we had a road. I went to the dock, and he comes in and he unloads 4 boxes. I said, "Where's the rest of it?" He says, "What do you mean the rest of it?" He had no idea. There were just 4 boxes.
Okay.
I said, "This is a walk-in refrigerator freezer. Do you have any walls?" He says, "I have nothing." So I called the shipping agent, and I said, Zip Code is over here, and I got the compressor and the evaporator, but I don't have any walls. He says, "I'll look into it." Well, it turns out that the walls were strapped to the inside of the container
Oh my God.
in Miami. When they arrived in St. Thomas, they unloaded everything, but never saw the panels strapped. So the panels actually made an extra round trip to
my
Miami and back again.
gosh. Oh no.
And that is so typical of what happens. You have to be,
Yeah.
you have to go, ooh, and then just laugh. You just have to, because it's so easy for things to, small things to not go at all like you plan. And I think there's kind of, you have to build up a certain resilience
Right.
to that. And the same is true when you're dealing with government officials and just about everything, because nothing is totally reliable. The people are good,
Yeah.
and they're trying their best,
Yeah.
but there's just so many ways that things can flip-flop. Sometimes the world up here is like that too.
Yeah.
But down there, it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost every day.
And that's why I think they say island time, right? But it's a little different than island time.
Oh, well, you and I had a discussion. Island time is one of the topics I'd like to write an essay on, because I think I understand island time.
Yeah.
And island time is when not only don't you have control over everything, but even when you do, you don't.
You don't. Exactly.
Even when you do, you
Yeah.
don't. Well, like the fellow that worked for us that constantly late. And we were, so 5, 10, 20 minutes late. He had his own car. He could drive over the hill.
No excuse.
And he'd be an hour late. Well, I ran into my father, and my father was out on the road, and I started chatting with him, and then this and that. And I said, okay, just anyway. So sometimes you just don't.
That's right. And I think for me, when I see that, it's like it reminds me as like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be in such a hurry all the time.
Well,
But,
without naming names, when we came back here, I found a number of situations that were just like that, where you know, forget it. You know, what are you arguing about? Who cares how many chairs there are? Come
That's-
on, 5 minutes late, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I think that definitely is a good thing.
To learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I should add one other time. One thing we learned about Island Time, we closed the cottages every September because that was the peak hurricane
Oh
season.
yes. Yep.
And when we had no guests coming in on a boat or coming in on a plane, and where are they now? And all it was open the bar,
Yeah.
start our work projects that we did in September,
Right.
and see who shows up. And if we ran out of Miller Lite, nobody cared.
Right. What's next?
That was really a beautiful way to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell
yeah.
you that was
Yeah.
very
yeah.
nice, not to have any real deadlines.
Yeah. So what do you do now? Like which
Well,
you involved in?
over
I know
the
you're
course
involved
of
in some
time,
things.
I very much enjoy doing a variety of volunteer work.
Yeah.
Frankly, when we sold the business, I was 57. We were now living in Kennebunkport, and I had these plans to do things, learn to speak Spanish. Yeah, for all the people in Kennebunkport that speak Spanish, right? Well, it turns out I realized that I was not. That was not my thing at all. And it's true that I've never really had any hobbies. I was in the Rocket Club in high school. That's probably the last time I really had a hobby. If it wasn't taking care of the house or doing something with the kids or the wife, then I had no personal hobbies. But I like doing things with other people. In fact, I was with the Dyksters the other night, and I said, having some stranger walk up and knock on the door is a lot more interesting to me than doing some craft project. I have no idea what's going to happen or what they're knocking about, but that's more interesting to me.
Yeah.
And that's that.
The unexpected.
So thankfully, I got recruited by Rich Parsons of Kennebunk, that we knew through church, to go over and work at Habitat.
Oh, great.
And I turned that into.
Yeah.
I became the treasurer.
Yeah.
And that was really a blessing. And then got involved in some other things too.
Yeah.
But that was. So I'm looking for opportunities,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it a lot.
Are you still involved with Habitat?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Big problem finding land. I'm on the
Yeah.
site acquisition, which also includes trying to find it, let alone
Right.
acquire it.
Right.
But
what a
affordable
wonderful-
housing
Yeah.
is a big challenge
Yeah.
everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But what a wonderful gift to give a family, when you can turn that into, something
Oh, yes.
that people move into. And,
Oh yes.
And you see from start to finish what you've been able to
Yeah.
do for them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they're talking about millions. The shortage in the United States of millions of houses needed. Where Habitat York County and the Habitat program's got a great reputation. But we need programs like the Heritage Trust program.
Right,
We need
right.
we need government to get to be an important partner in all this, because
Right.
otherwise it's just not going to happen fast enough.
Yeah, yeah. And that, when we were, I think in the 80s, when we had the big building boom, things were changing in the laws. I remember I was working at a law firm, and it would have been in like 85, 86, and everything was changing with regard to real estate. And I think it had to do with like whatever it was, your income tax. You couldn't write this off or write that off. So like people were recording, buying and recording their deeds. And I
Yeah.
remember standing in lines, and there was such a big do. And then they couldn't build, they weren't building stuff fast enough.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
They're doing. Okay, that was a big housing bubble.
Yeah.
Debbie and I, over the years, had been active in buying and selling real estate. Not big time,
Yeah.
small time,
Yeah.
mostly residential stuff. But that was when the boom was, they called it a drive-by appraisal. So people, even from a bank, appraiser working for them, they would just drive by.
Yeah.
They would look at the deed and they'd put a price on it so that it would move through quickly. Well, at one point we had purchased a condo, and then we thought, maybe then the real estate market blew up
Right.
and prices dropped like crazy.
Yes, they did.
And
Yep.
then
Yep.
we tried to finance one of these condos. Forget it. They said, "There's no money around for your condo. Your condo's we're going." Fortunately, we were able to keep it, but very quickly it
Yeah,
crashed. But
absolutely.
drive by
Yeah.
appraisals.
Yeah, and now, if you talk to people right now with the housing situation, first of all, there's no inventory, and if you want to move, you better have something to move to, right?
Yeah.
But people are buying things sight unseen, which is, in my mind, so crazy. To not even be able to go in and, turn the faucet on or check the furnace out, or some of these things are happening right now, and it's
Well,
you're gonna get
some
what
of the
you pay
stories-
for. Yeah,
some of the stories of couples that tried to buy it the normal way, bidding on like 30 or 40 houses and
Yeah.
losing.
yeah,
So you get pretty frantic after a while, and pretty soon you
yeah.
just take a risk that it might cost you another $50,000 to fix all the problems you should have known about.
Right.
But that's better than losing out. And
But they don't do inspections, or I mean, it's just very strange these days.
well, there's
So-
well, we should talk about the economy another thing. But
Okay,
there's a lot of
it'll be in
money.
the next video.
We're millions of houses short
Yeah.
for the American society,
Yeah,
but there's lots and lots of money around.
yeah, yeah. It's just
yeah.
nowhere to put them, right?
It's
So,
it's a challenge,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's yeah. I'm glad to see York County, the state of Maine,
yeah,
recent new laws, the
Yeah.
Kennebunkport Housing Trust.
yes,
These are the kinds of things that we need to do, and people need to then step back and look at some of the other things that they vote for or support
right,
that are in the same vein.
yeah. So what are you working on next?
Working on
What's your next
well,
big do?
Okay, so I'm on the board at Atlantic Hall. I'm on the group at Habitat. I'm on a couple of committees at church now. But something that back in 1975, Debbie and I were involved in a church project to welcome a Vietnamese family to the U.S. after Saigon fell.
Yeah,
That couple and their children are wonderful friends of ours still today. And that gave us a very positive experience. We've had other similar ones, and then, of course, we lived in the Caribbean for 10 years, and we had a lot to learn there.
yeah,
And I've learned recently, and just spoke yesterday on the phone, there's an organization, I'm going to call it, I'm not sure it's organized yet as a nonprofit or anything, but it's called Welcoming Immigrants, Our New Neighbors, WIONN, and I think they pronounce it WION.
oh, okay,
And this has been going on for a few years
Yeah.
with a group in Kennebunk. And I just received an application to fill out and a list of guidelines. Again, I think that that the U.S. is an obvious target, a dream for a lot of folks that we call immigrants. And I just think I know that if I can help in any way, that I will be enriched as well.
that's great, that's great.
So I'm trying to figure out how it's going to
Yeah.
how that works. But I know that it'll be a positive thing for me, and what little I can do for some of these folks will be positive for them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a true win-win. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for taking your time and really and thinking about that
Yeah.
that stuff, because a lot of times people just,
Well, it's anyway. It's a positive thing,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. So
Well,
hopefully
we'll
you'll
see.
keep us posted
We'll see.
on that.
We'll see. It's pretty demanding, but I should say that the concept of this group is not to replicate or be redundant with the government. It's just to be a neighbor.
Yeah,
So what would you do for somebody who moves in
right,
to a house next door to you?
right.
What would you do to help them? How would you help them?
Yeah,
When would you say, oh, I can help? Or when would you say, time for you to do that yourself?
yeah.
There are some of those
Yeah.
things as well.
Okay.
So I think it's a really great idea.
Well, I can't wait to hear more about that.
Okay.
So keep us posted
I
on
will.
that.
I
Okay.
will.
So we usually end our interview with a rapid fire round. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes. Do
We
I get
just
to
have
use more
some-
than one word?
You can, absolutely.
Okay,
So,
good. Thank you.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Well, I've got a long answer to that,
Okay.
which is, except for wives, I have no favorites.
Okay.
It's probably because I think too much, and I have too many criteria.
Okay.
So I have many favorites. But
Top-
I'm not. I can't pick a top one.
All
But
right.
that would
That's
take
okay.
some.
That's okay.
Yeah, I definitely cannot say that's one. I cannot do that.
What about a book?
Book.
Like if you
A
had
real
to
nerdy
say
book.
somebody.
Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
A Nobel Prize winning book.
Yeah, yeah,
The History of Mankind
yeah.
by a noted anthropologist. And I think it bears reading, gives you an idea of how things really came along
Yeah.
in some remarkably simple ways that that just help, to me, help put a little more understanding behind why some people do things the way they do.
Good answer.
Yeah,
Favorite color?
blue.
Favorite cocktail?
Vodka on the rocks.
Vodka on the rocks. Nothing in it?
No, too much trouble.
All right.
Too much trouble. Too much trouble. Yeah.
Coolest place you've ever been? Not temperature wise, but
The coolest place. Okay, now, besides the own business that we owned, which a lot of people, in fact, that's one of the reasons we went down to look at it eventually, was because one of our friends kept calling it the best beach bar in the whole world.
oh well, that's what I hear. That
Now, the coolest place. Someplace quiet with appropriate beverages
okay.
and interesting people to talk with.
Do you have a favorite restaurant? And it doesn't have to be here.
Yeah, his favorites.
Yeah. Tough to say, isn't it?
Well, when we lived in Cape Porpoise, there were a number of places to go eat, and Debbie and I found ourselves not really getting outside of Cape Porpoise.
Well, the Wayfarer was quite special.
And the Wayfarer was really that was
In
our
many ways,
that
to
was
you,
our
right?
go-to spot.
Yeah,
We also
yeah.
love the Captain's
Oh yeah. I do
again
remember
for
that.
its simplicity and straightforward,
Yep. Right.
like vodka on the rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
No fuss, no muss, just
No trouble.
no trouble.
And do you have a favorite library?
A favorite line. Oh, now I'm on the board at the
That's
Atlantic
okay.
Hall.
Hey, it's your favorite.
But yeah, I really like the Graves Library. You've got a great librarian there. And she's doing a lot. But I'm very excited about what's going on at Graves because clearly a library can be so much more than just a place for books.
Yeah.
And I think that you and the board are doing a great job to make it that place in this community.
We hope so.
yeah.
We hope so.
Yeah, and
So-
I can see that being done intentionally, and not just for survival, but I think that that the board, that you all are doing those kinds of things, which I think are really valuable to the community. And I hope the community shows its love for it by participating.
Yes.
And giving you the feedback that you need
Yep.
to meet the needs that are here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything? Let's see.
You can ask me favorite question. I'll give you.
Yeah.
I'll give you
yeah,
an answer.
I was gonna say. But anything, if somebody were to take that ad in the paper,
Yeah.
and we'll leave on this note, taking that ad in the paper, taking that leap, recommend that to anybody?
I would say everybody's got a different leap.
Yeah.
I think if you're fortunate enough to be to not worrying about survival issues and housing issues,
Right.
or maybe even then, is evaluate opportunities that look attractive to you,
Okay.
and try and figure out if you can do it or not.
Okay.
Not everybody gets these opportunities, and as I told you, I had a lot of opportunities came my way. It kind of just fell in my lap.
Yeah.
But I think that is true. A lot of people have no good choices at all, which is
Right.
really sad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And those folks need our support.
Yeah.
But I would say, don't be afraid. But I did want to add, I do have a favorite of something.
Okay.
Okay, a favorite
Shoot.
expression
Okay.
is what goes around comes around.
Okay.
And I mean that on many different levels, whether it's, St. Francis or St. John, or just it goes around, comes around. That really, I remember Ruth Marion. She told me the Bible quote, Matthew 21, I don't know. I said, really? She said, yeah, read it. It's what goes around comes around. Okay. But that is my favorite expression.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. You just added another question to our rapid fire. So
There you go.
that's great.
Good.
So thank you for sitting down with us tonight,
Right.
and
You're welcome.
for allowing us to get to know you a little better.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with all of your endeavors. It
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like you're going to be busy. So
I think so. Only a small concern. I still have
Yeah.
family I like to see and
yeah,
get in some golf games once in a while.
yeah, okay, all right. You have a favorite place you play? We didn't ask that.
It's kind of funny. We have this group that goes around, and
Oh, that's right.
Bill Dugan arranges where we play. I don't even know the names of some of these places,
Yeah.
or I confuse the names. But it's fun to go out with the guys
Mm-hmm.
and play casual, social, friendly golf.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Well, if you ever want to play Biddeford soccer, let me know, because
Oh.
that's where my husband and I play. So
Oh,
we'd love to
well,
have you join
that's
us.
a very that we play that course a lot. It's
and we'll
very
go
nice.
sit at the 19th hole after.
There-
How's that?
there we go.
All right.
Yeah, super.
Thank you very much.
You're
and
welcome.
thank you all for being here tonight for another episode of What's Your Story? We'll see you right back here next time.